What's going on, everybody? This is your boy Pitts from Pitts and Push Sports Talk Radio, Pitt Sports Zone, Bowie TV, Comcast Channel 77, Verizon Channel 11. I am here on this beautiful, cold, dreary Thursday as we get ready and do what we do best, talk football with Coach Bernard Clark Jr., Robert Morris University head coach. Good morning, Coach. How are you doing today?
Doing well, Pitts. Everything's going good. No complaints, man. Practice week's been good, so got a lot to talk about. Some good things to talk about.
And I'm ready to dive into it. So first, we'll recap on Tuesday. We followed up Tuesday from Saturday's game with the large margin of victory over Virginia of Lynchburg. We talked about how the things that you spoke of before the game and what you were looking to execute in the running game, and with the cutting down on the simple penalties. You both, you did well in both of those areas. Not only that, your passing game and your defense, special. Everybody played a pivotal part in that victory. And so now we transition to this week's opponent, the Howard University Bisons, and we talk about the word of the week, the wow, which is complacent. And we talk about practice and preparation. If you could just walk us through how this week have been and making sure the team wasn't complacent with last week's lopsided victory.
Well, the coaches have done a great job with that, with the guys not being complacent on what's going on and making sure they stay on top of them. So we've worked on things that definitely need to be worked on, like defensively. We worked on run fits, making sure everybody's in their gaps where it's supposed to be at, even though it seems like a routine thing and a mundane thing and a thing that should be natural. It's still something you got to make sure you're working on. So we walked through that. We walked on pass route recognition with our DBs and our linebackers working together to make them understand those things. So to not get complacent on the little things, because you know as well as anyone else, Pitch, that it's a situation where the little things are extremely important. Routes on air, with our receivers to make sure they're running the proper route, being at the right depth, so the coaches can see everything that's going on. So those little things are extremely important. And we had to change up some things because we got a PAT block last week. So as coaches, we got to go back to the drawing board. Okay, why did that happen? Okay, now we got to switch this up and make sure we're doing this, make sure the kicker's doing this. So all those little things of, like you said, getting comfortable with what's going on and not making adjustments makes you get complacent. So we want to make sure we have that complacency. So the coaches have done a great job, and the players have done a good job of responding.
How's practice been throughout the week? How's the energy been?
Practice has been good. Energy is always good, especially, and we always know that because we practice on Monday nights. So we practice at 7 o'clock on Monday nights, probably about an hour and a half practice, and the guys get after it pretty good. So usually Mondays kind of set the tone a little bit. Tuesdays are a little bit tougher because once you start implementing, you put a little bit in on Mondays, but once you really start implementing the game plan, you're worried more about how the missed assignments, more some misalignments, but their energy was there all week. So that's a positive thing. When the effort and energy is there, you feel good about it.
When you talk about realigning and patching up, when it comes to the special teams, I never actually played on special teams, and I never really been a part of a huddle when it pertains to special teams. Or I'm sorry, I have, but only as a return man. When it comes to the blocking of punt return, etc., what plays when those breakdowns happen? Is that just more of the front the defensive front looked different, so the guy that I thought I was supposed to get, I went and got the other guy? Is that normally how that breakdown happens?
That's part of it. But with our PAT that got blocked last week was more so the schematics of it. We didn't make it long enough. We didn't elongate the front long enough. And then part of it was one of our young men didn't punch in the hole like he was supposed to punch in the hole. The guy just ran through his arm, and that's how he was able to block it. So that was part of it. So part of it was schematic, but also was part of it physical, and the young man not doing what we asked him to do. And our punt block, they had 12 men on the field. So it was kind of like a situation where they blocked the wrong guy, but at the same time, had he just got his body in front of the guy that blocked it, it didn't matter if they had 12 men on the field. He didn't get his body in position where it's supposed to be at. So a lot of times you got to work on footwork. Make sure the guys, especially guys up front, like you said, they're working on their footwork, make sure their feet are where they're supposed to be at, taking a bucket step as opposed to taking a jab step and things like that. And all those things become a part of it. So making sure the minor details are taken care of.
I don't think a lot of people understand the importance of feet work when it comes to football. A lot of times when you hear someone say you got to work on, you got to work on your feet work, they're talking about receivers or running backs, chopping when they're doing a ladder drill or something of that nature. but it's just as equally, if not more important for linemen, because if your feet is not in proper position, it then can have an imbalance. It, depending on your position and your posture, that's where your weight is. You have to be positioned properly in order for a defensive lineman to be able to push the offensive lineman over or vice versa. So can you elaborate more on the importance of the feet work when it comes to offensive linemen or defensive linemen in that perspective? But I think it more pertains to like an all lineman because they're being attacked. They're not going out and attacking necessarily unless it's a run play.
Well, I know as an ex-linebacker, and I always tell coaches, do not bring me a guy that has duck feet. I don't, 10 to 2 is a time. It's not a football position. So we want to make sure your feet are never 10 to 2. But at the same time, there's some guys who are outstanding athletes with duck feet. And a lot of times you're going to be in positions like that. I always tell guys you want your weight on the inside balls of your feet. When you weight on the inside balls of your feet, you're changing directions. When you got duck feet, you're stopping yourself. So you want to make sure the weight's on the inside balls of your feet. So when you're dealing with a defensive lineman, if he's duck footed, it's a situation where you want to make sure he's lifting his feet forward. A lot of these guys, when they're duck footed, they send a step this way and step this way. So it hurts them a little bit because they don't have the leverage they need under the hips and everything else as they drive forward. So exactly what you're saying, when it comes to footwork, guys got to understand the importance of keeping the weight on the inside ball of their feet to change directions to put themselves in the best position that they can. And when you're kick sliding as an offensive lineman, your feet have to be under you. You have to be able to sink your butt. When your feet aren't under you and your feet are wide, now you get in a position where your chest gets back and now somebody can get into your chest. Same thing with a defensive lineman. You're coming off the ball and you got your feet here as opposed to your feet working upfield. Now, right. Not a tough block for the offensive lineman. So footwork's extremely important with running backs, linebackers, offensive linemen, defensive linemen. Like you said, it's extremely important. So we work on that on a regular basis. Coaches are constantly working on footwork in their individual drills and make sure the guys' feet are where they're supposed to be at.
Was the 12 men called on that play when they blocked it?
It was called because if they got, we'd have lost the shutout because they blocked it. Was a first safety, so it was down there. So it was called and it gave us a first down. And then we went down and scored. So
okay,
yeah.
What is the mindset, or what did you do trying to build on a victory as you did last week, where it was an opponent that it was your best day. Every dog has their day, and on last Saturday it was your day. It just happened to be a very good day, and then you go to the next week to a different opponent. What are you looking to build on the victory from last week?
Well, that goes back to the wow we had last week when we talked about training and not so much practicing, because we're training for each game. We're trying to get ready for each game. You don't want practice to get mundane. That's why the complacency, making sure we're changing up some things that need to change up. So the wow is always important, Pitch. As you put it, the wow is always where it needs to be at. So we're talking about that wow throughout the week and make sure our guys are doing that. So this week, we're making sure, hey, guys, we're still training. We're still trying to get ready. Let's not get complacent. We're training for a season, and that's why they call it a season, because it comes one after the other. So let's make sure we stay on top of those things.
And with that, of course, your wow of this week, again, plays in part to when you talk about the previous wows, whether it's the uncomfortable, or it's the training, or it's the practicing. And, complacent basically is like slap dead in the middle because anytime you're comfortable, you become complacent. And if you're not training and practicing, then you also are complacent. That means that you feel that you've reached your pinnacle, or your height of talent that you feel that you have or that you desire to have.
Mm-hmm.
So with not being complacent and going into a week was lopsided, is there any hangover in the mindset of players?
I think so, especially when you, like you said, you play a team that you're supposed to dominate and you dominate. So a lot of times you have that like, I'm ready to go. Let me roll my helmet out here and get ready for the next one. No, that's not how it works. And again, as coaches, now it's our job to make sure they're kicking into the next gear. That's a coach's job. Now, it's a player's job to work. It's a player's job to put in the effort that he needs in order to not be complacent, but it's our job to make sure we stay on top of them so they're working to get better at the position that they're doing. So there's no doubt about it. It's a situation, Pitch, where we're trying to make it happen, but the guys have to make it happen also.
Right. What do you, as the head coach, what do you want to see more of? Well, let's start on the less. What do you want to see less of in this game that maybe you've seen in the other game?
Penalties. I mean, that's the first thing you want. So you don't want to see any mistakes. You want to make sure that the guys aren't making dumb mistakes. I mean, I shouldn't say there's good penalties, but there's aggressive penalties that don't bother me, and that's
Right.
just that's my mindset from when I played at the University of Miami as a player. Because we used to always say, okay, if you get a certain penalty, we can live with it as a defense. But if you get a dumb penalty, we can't live with it. So
Right.
there's certain penalty. If this is an aggressive penalty where guys getting after and he's playing hard and he gets a penalty, you know, as a coach myself, I can probably live with that. But if it's a penalty where it's something dumb, it doesn't make stupid, it's a stupid penalty, it doesn't make sense, should I say, then that bothers me. So I want to make sure we have less penalties going to this game. The other thing is we've got to continue to improve on the running game. We got to continue to improve on our rushing game. We want to make sure we're still looking for that back who's just going to jump out of the backfield like, wow, that's what we need. That's our guy who's going to be our every down back. Right now, we had 212 something yards last week, but it was by committee. Now that's great. 200 yards is great rushing. I don't care if it's by committee, whatever. But you're still looking for that one guy. So we're still looking for that one guy to jump out at us and continue to do those things. And defensively, like I said, want to make sure we're not missing tackles. Let's continue to get turnovers because we're doing a good job getting turnovers. And also, let's continue to become great tacklers, not just good tacklers, great tacklers. Because I believe, in Fitz, you can agree or disagree, it's still up to you. Tackling has become a lost art form, even at the highest level. I don't care if it's all the way from Pee Wee all the way up to the NFL. No one wants to tackle anyway. And I always tell the coaches this: there is a proper way and a perfect way to tackle, but there's no such thing as a perfect tackle. Let's just get him on the ground. Let's do what we need to do. Let's grab some claws. Let's get him on the ground. We don't need to make the big hit. If you make 16 tackles in a game and all of them are shoestring tackles for 1 yard gain, still great tackles. But let's make sure we're getting guys on the ground. So missed tackles drive me nuts. That's a sin in the book of RMU. It drives me nuts.
So I definitely agree, and I'm gonna come back to that point of the tackling because you make a great point that I wanted to touch on. But I'm going to go backwards to when you said you talked about penalties that don't make sense and penalties that do. As a coach, can you would this be a make sense penalty? So say I'm your defensive back and I get hit with an out and up, right? I'm looking in the backfield. I see my receiver does an out, so now I'm jumping the route because I think it's an out route, but in fact he's turning upfield, and I know that I don't have safety help. And so in that situation, I know I'm beat. If I decide to, you know what, I'm just going to take that pass interference. I'd rather give up 15 yards than 6 points. Is that a okay penalty for a head coach?
That's a great penalty in college for a head coach. I'm with you 100%. Even if you're in the pros and you can get that guy before he turns upfield, okay, you're gonna get a 15 yard. They're gonna get the ball where it is. They ain't gonna be 6 points. That means we
Right.
still have an opportunity to keep them from scoring. That's an outstanding play from a defensive back. If you ask me, if you know you're beat and you grab the guy, you tackle him, hey, let's go 4 more downs. Like you said, it's much better than 6 points. So yes, to me, that's now you don't want that to happen on a
Right.
regular basis because obviously
Right.
now you guys getting beat too much. But is that a smart penalty? Absolutely.
Right. I asked that question because I watched throughout the week of different games, and I've watched a play where a cornerback was hit in 2 or 3 different games last weekend where a quarterback was actually hit with an out and up. And you can tell the entire time they looked like they were in the cover three. But the quarterback did a good job of dropping the safety to the left side to where the out and up was on the right side. And the cornerback never, it was like it was okay with getting beat. It was like he gave up before the pass was even caught. And to me, mentally, I'm just like, why not just take the penalty? Why give up the 6 points? So it was a question that I wanted to ask personally because I know if I was in that situation, oh, I'm tripping you. Like, why'd you do it, coach? He was going to get 6 points. I figured I'd take the first down.
I've done it. I've done it personally. You know, when I played, I've done it personally, especially in college. I mean, I never forget. I think we were playing East Carolina. I'm not 100% sure. And I look in the backfield and the tight end is taking off. I reached up and tackled him. Everybody was like, Tiger, man, what? Hey, bro, 4 more down. Let's make it happen. And we kept him out of the end zone. So
Right.
that's the thing that's important. Is like the important thing is not giving up 6. Now, didn't happen to me again, but I wanted to make sure he wasn't going to score a touchdown that time. You know, they can throw it, they can call a penalty, all that stuff. But Let's go 4 more downs. Now you give yourself an opportunity. I guess the thing that really jumps out, it's no different than a young man giving up on a play. Still gonna make a tackle. I mean, I guess the thing that
Right.
jumps out at me the first week of Travis Hunter when he runs the guy down and tackles him at a 10-yard line, and 2 plays later he gets the pick. So you can't give up, and that's why effort is so important. Like you said, is the effort there. That's going to always be there. We're
Absolutely.
going to make sure our effort's going to be there, and the energy is going to be there all week. We've got to make sure our guys understand that the importance of making smart plays. Like you said, that's a smart play, and the importance of making good plays. So we've got to make sure we're where we need to be at.
So going back to the agree to disagree in regards to the forms of tackling, I wholeheartedly agree. It's something that me and my dad we talk about often. Even so much, even during the Steelers game this past weekend. And as you said, it's at all levels. It appears that nobody really. You have some who are hitters, and those are the ones that you don't have to worry about. They want to hit anything in their sight, wherein you have others who are, I call them floppers. Like they just dive and try to hope they get you down. Like I don't understand the arm tackling of nowadays. I don't understand how a defensive back that weighs 175 is trying to come up to a Derrick Henry high. Like I don't understand that. You'll lose that battle every time. And
Yeah,
it's and it's
you pitch. Only thing I'd say with that pitch, you may lose that battle, but diving at Eric Henry's legs with your head down may get you a concussion. So you got to be smart in what you're doing too. If you're going to hit Derrick Henry, you got to hit him at his waist. You still can't. You still can't hit him in his legs because you're talking about some powerful legs that could run through your head. So the thing about, I always tell the guys, if you're looking at the ground, you're wrong. If you're looking at the ground when you go make a tackle, you're wrong. I don't care who it is. If you're ankle biting, you're wrong. A wrap and roll, because a lot of people get caught up in the wrap and roll because that's a Seattle tackle or rugby tackle, whatever situation it may be.
right,
That's still done at the waist. You
right,
got a lot of guys trying to grab legs and stuff like that. And that's how guys end up getting concussions because they're going low, their eyes are down, their head's down. And next thing you know, they get a knee in the head. And it's one of those situations. So even if you're tackling a Derrick Henry and you're a defensive back, you still need to be at waist level as opposed to getting wrapping around his legs because you may get knocked out. Because the first thing people say is exactly what you said. They don't understand what you're saying. Now they're thinking I'm going to go in my head down, and that's not true. What you're telling them is you want to wrap up his legs and make sure your eyes and you can see your target and all those things. Because the next thing that happens is they jump over his head. And I don't care what anybody says. If someone's jumping over your head, your eyes are closed. Period. There's
right.
nowhere in the world a man can jump over the top of you and with your head down and your eyes not be closed because you're going to see him jump. You're going to see him jump. So I agree with you 100% that a defensive back should be smart when tackling the Derrick Henry. But at the same time, a defensive back needs to make a proper tackle at his waistline as opposed and wrapping and rolling as opposed to trying to dive at Derrick Henry's legs and wrap him up because they may end up getting a concussion.
What would be your conversation if um, player breaks free down the sideline? The defensive player, your defensive player, don't try to make the tackle. They push them because they think they're going out of bounds, but don't get a good push, and the player takes off for a touchdown. What is your conversation with that player, and are those coachable moments?
Uh, it is, but unfortunately, I always tell people, haven't always been a Christian. So sometimes, sometimes some choice words are going to come out, especially in that situation. I mean, a prime example is when we played Youngstown. I just felt like it was too much ankle biting, too many ankle tackles, and I lost it because I got tired of watching guys dive at legs and miss tackles and all the other stuff going on. And it's like you said, if the guy's next to the sideline, just go and drive him out of the sideline. Sideline hasn't missed a tackle yet. They're
Right.
100% when it comes to. Don't try to push him. Go ahead and drive him out of the sideline. To me, it's still got to make a tackle. The guy's not going out of bounds. You got to make sure he's out of bounds. Sideline's there, but you got to be smart. Again, it's also a game of angles. Football is a game of angles. You got to make sure the guys understand pursuit angles and doing the things that are necessary to make sure they're making the tackle. And I don't think guys do that. A lot of guys, when the guys run on the sideline, like you said, they rush to get over the top shoulder as opposed to getting on the downhill shoulder. And
Right.
now they whiff. The guy cuts back inside. Everybody's like, oh, that was a great move. No, that was a horrible
That was
angle
a bad
by a
angle.
defensive player. It had nothing to do with the move of the back. The back just stopped his feet and went back inside because he knew that he had leverage over the guy. So with it being a play of angles, you talk to him about the angle. Hey, you made the wrong angle. You need to do this. Make sure you take this angle on his inside hip, so on and so forth. But at the same time, some choice words are going to come out at that moment about
Right.
why you're doing it the way we haven't coached you to do it that way. So why are you doing it that way?
Can you talk the importance of first step? So when I say first step, I mean like in baseball, like I played center field. So for me, anytime a ball was hit deep, my first step was back, right? Because I can always recover anything in front of me. Um, as a defensive back, safeties, for example, whenever you're unsure of the route at the moment because it's just developing, how important is first step for a safety in regards to coverage?
Well, I agree with you. First step's important, but probably more important than that is the read step. And I think that's what you're referring to more than anything else. As a linebacker, I know my read step, I mirrored step whatever the back did. I read the back through the line. That's how I did. A lot of people read the guards, a lot of people, that's fine. But I read the back through the line. I mirror stepped him. Not a big step, but a smaller step. With a DB, I think it's more about alignment that's going to come with your step because if it's a press coverage and you're inside alignment, you want to make sure you're stepping with the outside foot or the inside foot, which you're pressing on the guy to force him outside. So it becomes more about your step on your alignment as opposed to coming down. With a safety, reading the end man in the line of scrimmage, reading number two, is it going to be a back step? Is it going to be an out step? So the read is probably more important to me when it comes to defensive back and making sure he's getting the proper read from what he's seeing as opposed to him making the first step.
The game's approaching. Saturday's almost here, and it's going to be the Colonials versus the Bisons. I know you said you want to see, well, more so from a perspective of the offensive side. You said you want to see more of, someone basically take the lead in the backfield. But if not, the running back committee has been, a success for you guys at this point. But you would like to probably lead on one. And then you said you want to see, penalties cut down and for the defense to continue the tackling that they displayed last week. Going into this week or going into in a couple of days, you're sitting at the top of Bobby Joe, right? And you're looking down on the field. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you're looking down at the field? Boy, it's gonna be a good day. You ever had that feeling as a coach when you just stepped out on the field? You're like, man, today's about to be a good day.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's and I tell you, the first time it came over me here at Robert Morris University was back in 2019 when we were fighting for the championship in our last conference, and we are getting ready to play Duquesne. And I walked out and I said, "Man, this is about to be a good day." And because we had just lost Duquesne the year before, they thrashed us. And that day we came out, I think we had like 5 turnovers, 2 pick sixes, and so you're like, "Yeah, it's going to be a good day." So as you walk on the field, it's more about walking in that locker room. When you walk in that locker room, you feel that energy from those guys and that music's bumping, and you see them bumping their heads and they're doing all stuff, and you start getting excited. And I'm 56 years old, and ever since I was an 8-year-old kid, that same excitement, you start getting tears from the fact that you're about to play a game that you're probably be involved in a game that you've been doing since you were 8 years old. So that excitement comes to you. So that's what I want to see come Saturday. That excitement, that joy, that those expressions of playing hard and getting after it and understanding that Saturday is assault and battery becomes legal. That's what it's all about, and understanding that assault and battery becomes legal. It's a situation where I can run through a man's head and knock him out cold, and the ref's gonna say, "Hey, go back to the huddle." That's what I like about college football, and that's what I want to see, and that's the atmosphere I want to be around come Saturday.
We talked about trust and how important it is for each position to trust the other in order for the schematics of the game to go how it was planned and how you practiced it. I think that, or I know that when you talk about trust, and it's just basically tying up, as I like to do, I like to tie up the wow from
Mm-hmm.
the first week to last week.
Mm-hmm.
And then not only just a wow, but, some key words that we talked about. Trust wasn't a wow, but it was a key word that we discussed.
Mm-hmm.
And within that, I think trust also helps teammates become accountable. Helping teammates become accountable also creates that environment where complacency is not a part of it in the preparation of training or practice, which then leads to uncomfortableness because you now have players challenging each other.
Right.
And, this week going into the week against Howard. You know, I'm looking forward to it. Looking for more of it. I will be there with you, live and in color. I can't wait. It's about to be a good football Saturday in Pittsburgh, boy. It's one of those moments where when I see teams come out, um, I would just be like, man, I just want to put the pads on one more time. I
Yeah.
just want I just want to get out there. So I'm looking forward to seeing you this Saturday. I'm looking forward to spending the day with the Colonials up in Pittsburgh, and I thank you for all that you do for me.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks, Pitts. Let's go, Bobby Moe.
Let's get it. It's your boy Pitts from Pitt Sports Zone, Pitts and Pitt Sports Talk Radio, Bowie TV, Comcast Channel 77, Verizon Channel 11. You are here. You'll be here. We'll be here every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Listen, the next time you'll see us, I'm going to be up at Bobby Moe with Coach, sitting down somewhere on the
Game
field.
day.
And we're going to
Game
do it. And
day.
we're going to do Execution Saturday right there live from Robert Morris University. Thank you for tuning in. See you on Saturday.